That would be cool. I would be very pleased if we were brought into some awards thing together as a couple.
And if it's in Anaheim, that's all the better. I like going there, so that'll be good.
Gosh darn it, though, people like you.
That would be fun. That would make it worth it. I don't love those kinds of awardsy things.
Me neither.
I find them embarrassing, and I don't want to say tedious because that's insulting to people who put them on, but sometimes they're just overdone. But if I were able to go and accept an award alongside you, that'd be great. I'd be all for it.
That's my entire thing with this, because otherwise I don't really care. But that would be fun if that happened.
And it's in Anaheim, you say?
That's where they're doing it this year. I don't know where it was last year. Last year it
moves around. Well, if it's in the LA area, if that were to happen, and if it was in the LA area, yeah, you should come hang out with Ray, the dog.
I would like to meet Ray personally.
Yeah.
And see Force sensitive
dog.
And Kylo Ren, aka Sawyer the dog. I don't know that Kylo is Ray's brother, but then Sawyer's not actually Ray the dog's brother either. So
yeah, it's all yet to be determined.
All right.
I heard yesterday we were talking on TMS about how Kylo Ren jumped something like 900 spots in most popular baby names of 2016.
Kylo Ren did?
Yeah. So people are calling their kids Kylo, middle name Ren, last name. And it was still like way down the list.
Like Kylo is the first name, Ren the middle name.
Yeah, but it's still like 2000th on the list or something.
Yeah, okay. But it jumped.
It's
enough people listened to Carboni push the name on Jeff Kanata, and we have concerns that it pushed it up the list a little.
Yeah, didn't work on Jeff, but
it worked on plenty of listeners.
Yep.
Yeah, see, that's the thing, though. I'm not sure if I were to have another kid, I would name a child after. I think, because that would automatically date their time and place, sort of like,
Kylo is not bad because you can call them Kyle, and then nobody really it doesn't.
Yeah, but then why would you call them Kylo then?
Because it's fun. Because it'd be like on the birth certificate, their actual name is Kylo, and then Ren is a middle name. I mean, middle names never get used, so except to embarrass people during graduation ceremonies.
Yeah, those are the best.
So that's not a bad one, Kylo Ren.
No, it's all right. Okay.
Roger's pretty good though.
I mean, it's not like Luke where you can kind of get away with it.
Yeah, Roger, your name is from a film star.
Yes, but it's old German, I think, for Speeder Bear.
Roger Corman, got it. All right.
Roger Corman, he's schlocky movie maker, but did some interesting movies. He did Battle Beyond the Stars. I like that one. What other Rogers? There's Roger Staubach.
Yeah.
From the Dallas.
Roger Rabbit.
Roger Rabbit. See, that's the old one. I always got that all the time.
Hey,
Roger Rabbit. I'm clever. Oh, I don't want a carrot.
It could be Roger Waters from Pink Floyd.
Yeah, yeah.
It could be 1:30 p.m.
Yep. Roger Dalton.
The show.
Roger Moore, the oldest.
I'm about to do the show now because it's 1:30. Could be a name.
I'll need control.
You have control.
Control.
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna disappear. I can take a hit.
It wasn't a hit. It was a direct statement. All right, here we go. Wait, is that right? Oh yeah, no, that's right. Here we go. Daily Tech News Show is powered by you. Well, maybe not you, but you right there. Find out more. dailytechnewsshow.com/support. This is the Daily Tech I.O. report for Wednesday, May 17th, 2017. I'm Tom Merritt. Scott Johnson and I have been sifting through the mountain of announcements from Google I.O., where the I.O. stands for interminable oration. I'm Tom.
I just watched the longest episode of HBO's Silicon Valley ever made.
Yeah, and I wasn't sure what the plot was supposed to be, actually.
No.
Other than, and all kidding aside, Google's I.O. developer conference happened. Only a 2-hour keynote, which I say only because in the past they have had 3-hour keynotes. So good for them. Kept it to 2 hours. And it was paced, man. They just moved. I give them credit for that. I was never bored.
Yeah, they put a lot into a tight 2 hours. So this isn't a 2 hours where you're like, oh, 2 hours. I shouldn't have taken them that long. No. This could have gone 3. This had no padding. This had no air to breathe. This was just bam, 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 in,
Boom,
out.
boom, boom, boom. The general theme was AI. In fact, at the end of it, they emphasized they've gone from mobile first to AI first, and they definitely delivered on that, talking about machine learning and AI in almost every product that they talked about. If I did get bored at any point, it was during the YouTube announcement, which I didn't think was that compelling. But a lot of other good stuff. We're going to talk about Google Photos. We're going to talk about Google Home, Google Assistant, all that good stuff. Few tidbits about Android O, but let's start off with a few other tech things you should know. Qualcomm has filed a complaint against Foxconn, Pegatron, Wistron, and Compal Electronics. Pretend you haven't already read this story, Scott. What do those 4 companies have in common?
Well, 3 of them have "on" in their name.
True.
Oh, outside of that, they make stuff for Apple.
Yeah, they're all 4 companies who have contracts with Apple. Apple is suing Qualcomm, launched a lawsuit in January, claiming that Qualcomm overcharges for its royalties, that they're not using fair and reasonable terms for patents. Qualcomm saying that Apple's trying to undercharge them and devalue their patents. And they've actually filed some counter complaints. And now they're going after the contractors. Apple has instructed their contractors not to pay Qualcomm and agreed to indemnify those manufacturers for any damages they would incur because of that.
And yet, despite all of that, manufacturing continues until they get this all worked out.
Oh, yeah. No, and Qualcomm wants that. They don't want them to stop making the stuff because they want those royalties that they think they're going to get. But they have sued to stop import of iPhones into the U.S. as a piece of leverage to have if they can get that complaint.
Which is seems crazy on the face of it, but man, imagine if they pulled that off. That would be something. Let's talk about another Tron. Wistron has begun assembling iPhone SEs in India, with the first phone shipping to Indian customers sometime this month. Now, Apple needs to source a certain percentage of products from inside India in order to get a license to operate Apple retail stores there. We've talked about this before. I guess this is a big step in doing that, and I don't know what that percentage is, though.
Well, it's 30%, and this goes a long way towards that. Also, iPhone SEs, the less expensive version of the iPhone, and they are competing against a lot of low-priced Android handsets dominated by Chinese manufacturers as well as Indian manufacturers on the subcontinent. So this is Apple's move to not only get an established retail presence in one of the largest markets in the world, but also potentially compete on price, although I don't think Apple's ever really going to compete on price. These things are still not going to be as cheap as other phones.
Even in markets like that. And one other thing I would say, I think the 30% is just kind of funny because that's the big, take that Apple has on their app store.
By coincidence. Yeah. At its Financial Analyst Day, AMD announced a graphics card based on its next generation architecture. The Radeon Vega Frontier Edition comes with a coonskin cap. No, it doesn't. The Vega card will come with 4096 stream processors, though, 16 gigabytes of high bandwidth memory on a wide 2048-bit memory bus. Card supports up to 8K displays, with AMD claiming up to 12.5 teraflops of single precision processing power. This is targeted towards machine learning and photo rendering applications. This is for business uses and expected to release in June. AMD also confirmed it'll release a consumer CPU with 16 cores supporting 32 threads, codenamed Threadripper. The CPU is scheduled for release in the summer, along with the X99 high-end desktop platform. So AMD trying to come with the power here.
That is so much more exciting than i7 and all those stupid bridge names.
Threadripper.
Yeah, Intel needs to take a note here and have some cool names for once. I think Threadripper is awesome. What a cool name.
It's a wrestling name.
Yeah.
Threadripper.
It totally is. Or a late night infomercial for something that helps you with your clothes. Anyway, it's good to see AMD sneaking into the higher end stuff a little bit more. Certainly NVIDIA has a real dominance there, and I think some good competition in that side of things would be good. Amazon refreshed its line of Fire tablets, everybody. So get on this news. The Fire 7 is now thinner and weighs less with improved contrast and still sells for just $50. The Fire HD 8 received a $10 price cut. Both ship in June. There's also a kids edition of the Fire HD 8 now that includes parental controls, a 2-year worry-free guarantee, and a protective cover in multiple colors for $130. And Amazon Voice Services coming to all tablets sold in the UK as well. Boy, everybody's on the run to get this, get their voice assisted stuff everywhere, all places at once.
Amazon's tablet strategy is very interesting. They don't do 4K. They barely do HD. They don't do regular like high-end refreshes or even like form factor changes, and they sell very well for Amazon, relatively speaking.
Yeah, I think as a parent, I can tell you that when Christmas rolls around and you're thinking maybe a tablet for the kids, it is very tempting to say, well, what's going on over here with the Fire tablets? Why are they so cheap? And you read those specs and they're not knocking your socks off, but they're certainly capable of doing most of what you need that tablet for.
Yeah.
And $50 at the low end is just hard to deny. And it's Amazon. It's not like you're buying something you don't trust or that you haven't heard of before. And that's a price for something that normally you've never heard of before, some kind of weird Taiwanese ripoff of something. And that's not what this is. So I think that they have banked on that, and then that's where they're making their money. And I think that's where they'll continue to do it. I think they wanted to do that high-end thing and take iPads and Nexuses head on, and it didn't happen.
And they're filling a niche really well, especially these kids editions. I know $130 sounds expensive in relation to the other Fire tablets, but if you're buying a tablet for your child, having a 2-year guarantee that says we don't care why it broke, send it back. Mm-hmm. And we're also going to give you a protective cover. I mean, that's well worth it for a lot of parents, I think.
It's also interesting that as time has gone on, I've seen where Amazon is actually gaining their power. It was never through innovating with a product, although you could argue that the Echo is innovative in lots of ways. And
the original Kindle too.
Yeah, sure, in the Kindle and many things. But where they're doing it now in other very busy, crowded markets is they're leveraging their ability to be this incredible sales force, this like crazy company that can manage products and logistics around the world in a way that nobody else can, just due to sheer volume. And I think this works across the board from Prime Video all the way down to a $50 tablet. And I think it's working for them. It's like this one advantage that Google, Apple, and really nobody else has is this big stronghold sort of retail Walmart-ish sort of coverage of everything. It's pretty crazy.
Well, the logistics is kind of what they're doing with shipping, what they did with data.
Yeah.
Where they needed data to do the Amazon bookstore in the 90s. And then they developed Amazon Web Services, which has become a dominant business for them. And they're attempting to do the same thing in shipping.
Yep. Crazy.
Hey, folks, if you want to get all the tech headlines each day in about 5 minutes, be sure to subscribe to Daily Tech Headlines. You can get it in the Anchor app. The Anchor app's real fun. Jeff Kanata has some stuff. Newest, latest, best. Remember that? It's there in Anchor right alongside Daily Tech Headlines. And you can focus on just the things you want to listen to. You can make calls into the show in it. Try it out, anchor.fm. Or you can also get Daily Tech Headlines as a flash briefing on your Amazon Echo and as a podcast anywhere. You can subscribe to a podcast at dailytechheadlines.com. All right, man, it's not gonna be 2 hours, but we got a lot to get through from Google I/O, starting with Google Photos. That seems to be one of the more popular announcements they've made. Google Photos, sort of the only viable photo organization software out there. A lot of people like it a lot. And I'm gonna run through the new features real quick, and then we'll give our impressions of them. Suggested sharing, so it'll suggest photos to send to people. You may not think that sounds like a big deal, but if you've ever said, "Oh, I keep meaning to send those pictures from mom's birthday or from aunt's, my aunt and uncle's anniversary party," this will suggest that to you, so you don't forget. There's a sharing tab that will keep notifications about those suggestions. Even if you're sending it to somebody who doesn't have the Google Photos app, it'll send them an SMS or an email with a link to the album, and of course prompt them if they want to download the app itself. You can add your own photos to albums that you receive. Somebody sends you a link, you can add your own photos, like, oh, I have some pictures from that event too. There's something called shared libraries, where you can agree with someone else, one other person, they're thinking usually a spouse, to automatically share with people you want. You can either say, I want to share everything, or share everything from a certain date, or share photos that include certain things. And this is where the AI comes in. It's got all kinds of machine vision, so it can say, oh, when you see my kids in a photo, automatically share that with my spouse. All photos of kids can show up in both parents' libraries. All of this come into photo in the coming weeks. Available today in the US on the web, Android and iOS next week. And then there's photo books, which will use some machine learning to search for the photos. Let's say you're like, give me pictures of Scott. It'll pick out pictures of Scott and say, these are the 40 best photos right here. You want us to make a book out of that? $10 for soft cover, $20 for hardcover. There's also Google Lens in Google Photos that can do things like identify paintings, do optical character recognition, tag phone numbers, and make calls right out of photos that you see in Google Photos.
Yeah, it's all pretty impressive. The only thing Google Photos is missing is a really strong, really viable, and really popular social network. I wish Google Plus was bigger and more spread outside of my tech friends and things like that, because tying this into something as big as, say, Facebook would be the perfect combination. You're not only organizing your photos, but you're doing them in such smart ways and then sharing them in such smart ways that you're just missing the outlet part. There's no public facing part of this that is truly as ubiquitous as you want it to be. And maybe they think this will help get it there. They talk so little about Google Plus that I don't think that that's probably true. But that's the one interesting piece of this puzzle missing. Outside of that, though, I'm using it all the time. I love it. I think it's great, but I'm using it more as a personal management piece rather than a public facing thing like Flickr used to be.
It's not supposed to be. It is a personal management thing. And all of these new features point to that, like sharing with friends and family privately, not posting it on the internet. They're like, Facebook's got that covered. Instagram's got that covered. We're not going to try to compete in that space right now.
Yeah, it's probably good that they're doing that. But also people may be a little bit worried about how well this is going to work. This entire conference seemed to be focused on, we are now getting to a place where it will effectively pick your best 40 photos. And it will know who you want to share things with because you've done it before. The machine learning was all over this Google Photos announcement stuff.
And I'll be honest, I don't think I'm going to make use of any of these new features. But it got me to open up Google Photos and resync and say, you know what? I really should be using this to manage my photos.
Yeah.
Because Facebook has moments, and that's actually pretty good for sharing on the go. Like if you're on a trip with people and they're all on Facebook moments. But this isn't about the public sharing. This is about the private sharing. And this seems to work pretty well too. And cross-platform.
Yeah.
Google Lens, I mentioned that real quickly. That's vision-based computing capability. It's not just in Google Photos, it's also in Google Assistant. And so all of those things that I was mentioning in Google Photos, it can do in Google Assistant. So you can point it at something and go, what is that? And Google Assistant will tell you, oh, that's a daisy. Or you can grab a username or password from a router. You know, those routers that have, the hard-coded SSID and password printed on a UPC code on the bottom. You can point Google Assistant and say, can you just enter that in my Wi-Fi for me? Done. Doesn't store it. We hope. That would be bad necessarily, except storing it in your settings. It saves and organizes things it detects. They showed pointing it at a marquee and doing some cool stuff like being able to tell when the date of something was and add it to your calendar. They also did smart reply for Gmail users as well. Just to tag that in there. So
the only small thing I'd say about this is this reminds me of the convenience that came with when your phone could suddenly scan barcodes for food tracking or something. That was a revelation. I don't have to count these calories. I don't have to look it up and find out what they are. I go blip, bam, it's in the database. It's all done. This is another extension of that. I love it. I will use that.
I love that Google Assistant scenario of I see a sign. I mean, and this is good demo, and I don't know how often I'll use it in practice, but I see a sign up on the marquee that says, Jonathan Colton, May 15th. And I could say, take the information off that sign, put it in my calendar, and it can do that.
Yeah, very convenient.
You can also now type to Google Assistant on the phone. Oh my God, this was made for me. I never like talking to assistants, and I always want to type to them, and you almost never can. You can type to Cortana. It's one of the things I like about it. And now you can type to Google Assistant. So yay.
Yay. Yeah, no, that's good. I want to be able to, I want the fallback of being able to type to these things. I do not want a future where the only way in is talking to it.
Also, Google Assistant coming to iPhone. It is now available on iPhone. It'll work with other Google apps. It won't necessarily, you can't change the default. You can't change Siri to Google Assistant. Lots of products are going to come with a Google Assistant built-in badge, so you know which ones will work in that same ecosystem. They're adding tons of languages. There's something called Actions on Google platform coming to Android and iOS, already on Home. This allows developers to create things that work across the Assistant platform. They can pick up where they left off across devices. It supports transactions So you can do sales, you can do payments, and they showed off one payment system where they ordered something from Panera. You didn't have to create an account with Panera. You didn't have to install a Panera app. You just use Google Assistant to order. And they say any smartphone developer can make a Google action now. It's essentially Google Home's or Google Assistant's version of Skills.
Yeah, I think it's awesome. And also the idea that they have gone, I mean, I said this at the top of the conference and again at the bottom of the conference, I said, I hope we continue to see a very multi-platform focused Google I/O today. And at the end of this thing, I came away thinking, man, despite the fact that they talked a lot about Android and they talk a lot about their own services, they are a company that is interested not in platforms so much as they are services on those platforms. And as an iOS user, I always really appreciate that. So the fact that I can use this thing today on my iPhone makes me very excited. I really do wish I could switch it with Siri. I hate saying that. I wish Apple had a better plan with Siri. Maybe they do, and we just don't know it yet. But we're back to that whole thing again, where this just seems like, a better choice right now, and I'm going to have to start using it more.
Let's talk about Google Home, the Amazon Echo competitor. It'll be coming this summer to Canada, Australia, France, Germany, and Japan. So good news for folks in those countries who wanted a Google Home. It'll be able to now schedule meetings, set reminders, add your calendar to your daily briefing of news. They broke it down, Google Home's new features, into 4 categories. Proactive assistance. So it'll turn on a light and start flashing to get your attention and then tell you like, hey, traffic's building up and you need to get, to the airport in 15 minutes. You need to leave now. Or tell you have a flight delay and you don't have to leave now. Hands-free calling. So right on the heels of Amazon adding this, they're adding hands-free calling, but on the Google Home, any landline in the US or Canada can be called for free. It recognizes your voice and uses your contacts list. So if you say call dad, it'll know which, like, oh, Tom's speaking, call dad. And it has the option to link your own mobile number to the assistant. It'll use a real phone number, but it's a private number. Or you can link it to your mobile number if you have an Android phone. That's coming over the next few months in the US. Also getting Spotify free tier on Google Home, SoundCloud, Deezer, ability to play Bluetooth from any source for audio. HBO Now, Hulu can play to Chromecast. You can tell the Google Home, play that episode of Silicon Valley on my TV. And if you have a Chromecast, it'll do that. And also through Chromecast, it'll do visual responses. So if you ask for a route on the map, and say, put it on my TV, it'll show you the route on TV. That works for Android or iOS. And YouTube has an interface on Chromecast now. So you can say, show me what's on YouTube, and it'll take your account, put it up, show you some options. You'll say, oh, play that morning stream video, and it'll play that video for you.
So do you, after watching this, I kind of came away from this thinking, I'm a guy who's got a brand new Echo device on its way. So do you. We pre-ordered that thing. And when that thing arrives, I'm pretty excited about it. It's got the screen, all these new ideas. I'm excited about what Amazon's doing with Echo. But I came away from this going, maybe I want to get a Google Home. And I didn't expect to have that happen to me because I'm kind of getting what I want out of a voice assistant out of what I get with the Echo. But all this talk has me wondering if this isn't, I mean, I guess when they first announced this thing, I thought it looked like an air freshener. And I also wondered if they were really going to throw their guts behind it, or if this was just we need to have something in this space because we're Google. Now I'm starting to think they're really serious about it. And I'm starting to wonder if I've got, one of those in my future.
Well, the calling on the heels of Amazon adding calling, the calling to landlines is huge, right? Amazon's like, oh, anybody with the app. And Google's like, anybody with a phone. In the US anyway. The other one is that visual responses. That's kind of nifty. So yeah, for the first time, I'm looking at Google Home going, that might be worth having. That's got some interesting stuff. And if you live your calendar in the Google universe, if you've got your email in the Google universe, like all of these things, if you live in their universe, then it starts to really make sense. Yeah.
And part of it was me realizing how much I do. I really do live in the Google universe. I run it. I run their universe mainly in iOS and Macs, funny enough, but I'm still in it. And this better speaks to that maybe than the Echo. Although the Echo speaks to a lot of it too. There's all sorts of skills for the Echo that kind of handle even some of that same universe. But you got to think you're going to get a better catered experience. I don't know. This just feels like a potential crossroads for personal assistant buying. And when people make their decision this year, if they're paying attention to what Google's talking about, this could be a big whoop.
Virtual reality and augmented reality got its own section. A lot of hardware announcements in here. Standalone Daydream headsets are coming. They announced that LG's next flagship phone will support Daydream, but they say they want to create designed headsets that are better for VR because they help with the immersion when you don't have that phone screen. They can do some better stuff. Qualcomm's already made a reference design. They're working with HTC and Lenovo on models to come out later this year. And on the augmented reality side, the second Project Tango phone is coming out. The Asus Zenfone AR will go on sale this summer. They're working with Google Maps for precise location info indoors, and they introduced a mapping system that they call VPS for Visual Positioning Service, but essentially it's indoor mapping. So they have to have mapped the space, but they used a big box hardware store. They used Lowe's as an example to say, if you walk into one of the stores and you're like, where are the 3/4 inch valves for a toilet in this huge place? It can identify places in the store and then put a map on the screen for you to follow right to that place. So kind of nifty, but lots of hardware here.
Yeah. Also put that on your head and you won't look weird at all. Here's the other thing that jumped out at me. Coming up at E3, Starbreeze is going to finally show off this VR helmet they've been working on for a while. And it senses from the inside out, which is opposite of Vive and Oculus, which senses from these towers or points of reference that you put into a room. When they talked about this having sensors on the device to do world sense tracking, to track the world around them and model it and map it, that's huge. And I think that's the future of this stuff. So in practice, we'll see, but that got me super stoked.
We also haven't even gotten to Android yet. And granted, this is not the big Android announcement. We didn't get to find out what O stands for yet. But they talked a lot about all the different platforms that Android is on. Android Things for Internet of Things launching later this year. They claim 10 times user growth for Android Auto. They claimed 1 million Android TV device activations every 2 months. So that's 500,000 a month. Android O will release later this summer. And they broke it up into 2 groups of features that they talked about. Fluid experiences were things that make it easier to use. So picture-in-picture. So you can keep watching Netflix while you're looking at your calendar, stuff like that. Notification dots will show up on icons, and then you can long press on that icon to see notification. Autofill coming to apps. You can autofill in Chrome, obviously, right? But you can now autofill when you're logging into Twitter, and it knows, oh, you always log in with that username. We'll suggest that for you. That's opt-in, by the way. And smart text selection. So using some on-device machine learning. It never leaves the machine. It's not going into Google's cloud to keep track of what things you select and guess, well, that's an address. So when he taps on that, we're going to select the entire address. And they can even do things like select maps, like, oh, we think that's an address, and suggest, would you like to launch Google Maps to look at that?
Yeah, it feels like refinement time. I mean, that's kind of where we're at with iOS as well. It's not nobody's announcing or talking about features for phones that feel revolutionary anymore. These are definitely evolutions, though.
Yeah, and on the Vitals side, which is the other group of features, they launched something called Google Play Protect, which is a dashboard to show you all of the security features that already exist, really. But it's just a new way to see what's going on as they scan apps and look in the Google Play Store and find apps that aren't good and remove them. Some OS optimizations. They say boot time will be twice as fast in O. They're limiting background locations, background execution. Some developer tools to identify drain and crashes and slowness. So that should help have better designed apps. And developers very excited about Kotlin now being officially supported in Android. That's a programming language. And Google partnering with JetBrains to create a foundation for Kotlin. The first beta release, a preview of O, happening today at android.com/beta.
Are there 50 billion apps to scan a day? Are there that many?
Oh, sure. Why not?
Man, that seems insane. They must be multiple times the same app. It's got to be.
Yeah, probably. And versions and things like that. And, installations.
Sure.
Also, they announced Android Go, which is their internal name for an optimized version of Android to run on lower-end hardware, specifically targeted at developing countries. They say they have more Android users in India than they have in the U.S., So they need to optimize a version that works for Indian customers. So they've got Android Go optimized for entry-level devices with a gig of memory or less. System UI and kernel will use less memory, on down to 512 megabytes if necessary. A settings area to let people top up their carrier data right from the phone without having to go out to an app or a website. Apps that are optimized. So the Chrome data saver that tries to save data, very much like the Opera browser. YouTube Go, which will do a preview GIF now, so that you can see what the video is about before you decide to stream it. And of course, it still has the bandwidth settings and the ability to save videos for offline. Bringing more languages to the Gboard, so you can even type Roman characters and turn them into Hindi. They showed that in a demonstration. And the Play Store will feature optimized apps. So apps that are lower in size, have better memory and battery performance. And they've got a program called Building for Billions to encourage developers to optimize their app. This will be a version of Android OS O, and every Android from now on will have a Go configuration.
Have they confirmed the O stands for food yet? Some kind of tasty treat?
I mean, all of them do. They have not confirmed what the O will stand for.
Okay, so we're sure they're not breaking from tradition, or we don't know. We don't know what they're doing.
We don't know. We don't know what. Yeah. That's about it. Lots of other AI stuff. They announced TensorFlow Lite, which is an open source version of TensorFlow to help add machine learning to your apps. They announced their AI first data centers with tensor processing units, or TPUs, optimized for machine learning training and inference. 180 trillion floating point operations per second coming to Google Compute Engine today. They've got a new center on the web for all of their AI development, Google.ai, that's broke down into research tools and applied AI. AutoML, or machine learning, uses neural nets to build neural nets. And they made an Inception joke when they announced it. They say they want it to be possible for hundreds of thousands of developers to use machine learning. And they claim to be providing tools for people to do what they do better, using it to improve diagnostic software. They showed off DNA sequencing be improved by machine learning, predict properties for new molecules, autodraw.com, which we've talked about, that'll suggest better drawings than you drew when you sketch on it. And of course, adding it to Google Search and Google Assistant. Also, they claim TensorFlow is now the most popular machine learning repository on GitHub. And they're giving 180 petaflops of cloud TensorFlow resources to academics and researchers for free.
Oh, well, that seems like a pretty good deal. By the way, I know we didn't do it, but there should be a default statement about Skynet when people say things like use neural nets to build neural nets.
Neural nets, yeah.
That's nuts.
Google for Jobs is going to be showing up in Google Search in the coming weeks in the US and other countries later. If you're searching for a job, it'll help you narrow down job listings. They say FedEx, Johnson & Johnson, and others are using Google's cloud job stuff to help suggest jobs. LinkedIn, Monster, Facebook, Glassdoor, and more will work with it. It's kind of, think about when you search for airplane rides, when you search for travel. Now you get those little filter boxes. You'll be able to do that with jobs on Google. And finally, YouTube. YouTube 360 videos will work on televisions now. In YouTube apps. So if you've got a YouTube app on your smart TV or Apple TV, that'll work. You use the remote to pan around in it. You don't have to pick up your TV and move it around. Super Chat now has an API so they can trigger real life actions. They used the example of having people buy a Super Chat. Remember, Super Chat is the thing where you pay for your chat to come up to the top. Like you could have people buy a Super Chat to turn the lights off on you. Mm-hmm. I guess that would be fun for a while. I'll be honest, the YouTube announcements have me a little worried about YouTube. I'm like, this is the best you got, but it is Google I/O, so maybe they didn't come with their best stuff.
Yeah, probably not. By the way, I get a little hung up on Google for Jobs, which that's just funny optics if you think of the name Steve Jobs, and it just kind of threw me off. Google for Jobs.
No, man, Jobs meant employment long before Steve Jobs.
I know. That's just the guy's name, but for whatever reason, it jumped out.
Man, you have to turn every story into an Apple story somehow. I'm just kidding. Yes, Google for Jobs, though. Basically they're saying we want to steal the interface now for travel and for job seeking. So
yeah, it's interesting because those other companies, LinkedIn, Monster, Facebook, and the like, if they almost kind of just have to get on board with that, right? You can't, they all tried to do it. on their own. Let's just say monster.com, it's the oldest one I can think of. They're supposed to be the end all be all place to go. Right. And now Google's like, nah, there's a higher level than that.
And it's an airline really shaves its profit margins close, and they really want you to buy the ticket directly from them if they can at all do it. So having Google in the way is both a blessing and a curse, right? Google getting you to come to the website is great. Google as the travel interface that leads people to not buy your ticket because yours is a little more expensive, not so great. Whereas the job listing places, they're like, hey man, if more people see the job listing and they click through to monster.com, well then monster.com's fine with that, I guess.
That's a good point. It's kind of like their shopping thing. I don't know. Yeah. It's just, that slope could be a little slippery. That's all. You got to be careful.
Hey, thanks to everybody who participates in our subreddit. Obviously today was Google I/O, but we love seeing the interesting stories out there that you guys suggest to help us kind of get out of the treadmill of stories. You can submit them and vote on them at dailytechnewsshow.reddit.com, and we truly appreciate it. We did it, man. We made it through all the Google I/O announcements.
Yeah, I'm shocked, actually. That went pretty well. And also, I don't know. Today we felt really energetic on Google's part. They're all over the place, and they had a lot of stuff to talk about, but I don't know. It feels like things are going okay for them, generally speaking.
And we talked a little bit on TMS about the Verge op-ed piece saying Google needs to be boring. I think they were boring in the right way today, right? They didn't come up with any flashy new products. They had a couple hardware announcements here and there, but they were very reliable and stable today, and very smart in emphasizing machine learning and artificial intelligence in ways that some of which need to be proven still, but they all made sense to me.
I totally agree. And they sandwiched it with some levity. It had that funny little animation at the beginning to sort of show off the logo, and it all kind of, was all about ideas and stuff. And the end was a couple of DJs up there spinning the hits or whatever they were doing, and, some jaunty logo work and things. So it wasn't completely void of color and fun. It just, I agree that they need to kind of stick to what they know best and remind us that they're the most reliable actor in the game, because if we don't feel that way, they're in trouble. They control.
We don't want our data with them otherwise.
Yeah. We need to trust them implicitly all the time. And so the more they do that, the better I feel. And I felt really good today.
Well, Scott Johnson, I feel real good about all the things you do. Where can people find more of you?
Well, you mentioned Anchor earlier, and I also do an Anchor thing every day. You can find 2-minute segments, all 4 of them actually, all day about video games entirely. Is what my focus is. It's called the Daily Blip, which you can find at anchor.fm/dailyblip, or get it on the Anchor app. I really like doing it, and I think people will enjoy it. If you don't have access to that or looking for it in some podcasty way, I also compile those on Wednesdays and put them on the Boop Show feed at frogpants.com/boop, my regular video game podcast. So there's a way to get me in 2 different ways. Lots of video game talk right now, especially as we get into the E3 area, which comes up very soon. A couple of weeks is all. So do check that out. Again, that's anchor.fm/dailyblip.
Don't forget, folks, we are entirely funded by you. You can donate on PayPal. You can support us on Patreon. Go to dailytechnewsshow.com/support for all the details. In fact, if you wonder about what we talk about before the show begins, we got into another discussion today about planned obsolescence and whether that's actually the business model of tech companies. You can get that conversation and all of our pre and post show conversations in an exclusive RSS feed at patreon.com/DTNS. Just support us at any amount. Patreon.com/DTNS. Our email address is feedback@dailytechnewsshow.com. We're live Monday through Friday, 4:30 p.m. Eastern, 2030 UTC at alphageekradio.com and diamondclub.tv. We're at facebook.com/dailytechnewsshow, and our website is dailytechnewsshow.com. Back tomorrow with Justin Robert Young. Talk to you then.
This show is part of the Frog Pants Network. Get more at frogpants.com.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.
Man, I love ICU's title suggestion. It makes me warms my heart. No Google I/O news in history has been presented better. I don't know if it's true, but I like that you wrote.
That was really nice. Yeah.
Because man, these kinds of things are harder than our normal show, because you have to pay attention to something for 2 hours, which means you can't sit there and research it and write it up. It's kind of annoying.
Well, not only that, but a lot of these things are going to flesh out in the coming days, and you're going to
yeah,
where it's like, oh, we got to focus on this because this blew up or whatever. And You just don't know what those are yet. Until you get through them. Threadripper, dude.
Well, Roger, I can't hear you. No.
I don't hear you either, buddy.
Oh, Google Hangouts. Hey, that's the other thing I think that made me annoyed with the YouTube section is they made a big deal about live and then didn't talk about improving their live streaming.
What does the O stand for? What does the O stand for?
The O stands for, that was a lot of announcements.
DTIR Daily Tech IO report. Stand by yourself. Google VR is coming. Google for Jobs or Google Jobs. IO phone.
Now
home.
I can't not hear Steve Jobs because you put that in
I know. It's like the arrow on the FedEx truck. We're screwed.
Yeah. Sorry.
All right.
Threadripper is awesome. Thread the Ripper. You
Thread the Ripper.
You ought to not be in pictures so much. Facebook has its moments. Google hugs us even tighter. Google Assistant typing for Type B folks. Let's see. Qualcomm hates on Apple makers. So many things popping. Fire the Chromecast of tablets. Google Assistant saw the sign. A lot of Google. Google Skills can pay your bills. Skills can pay your bills.
It's not Google Skills though. It's Google Actions. Amazon Skills can pay your bills.
Tom called GIF team.
I'm equal opportunity. I alternate.
Speculation has its rewards. I don't know. Only 2 hours. IO phone home. Nobody was what Google owes. All right, I'm going to say like DTIR Daily Tech IO report. But that's me.
All right.
I'm leaning toward that.
I haven't personally.
No Google I/O news history has been presented better.
Actually, I do like Android O, Go, and I/O. Oh my.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, but we've done something like that with the, Lions, Tigers, Bears, oh my.
Yeah, that's true.
Before. Not to pick on your selection, Ken.
That's fair.
Oh, my legs.
Your legs all right?
Yeah, they're just stiff. So stiff.
I like that what does O stand for is winning. We won't answer that question though, is the problem.
There's a lot today.
It needs to be something Google I/O related. As good as some of these non-Google ones are.
It will not be Google shows everyone its O-face TVZ gun. Nice though. Will not be that.
Like I said, as good as some of them are.
We know it's tempting.
Well, should we go with... See, it's weird to have DTNS, DTIR, Daily Tech IO report.
All right, so then just
That's
go
what's
with...
tripping me up on that one. Do you have a second choice?
Wait, did you... Oh, never mind. What was that? What was that quote you said earlier? The IO stands for what? You said...
Interminable oration. Someone did suggest that.
Yeah, we should put that in.
Google...
All right.
Google
interminable / oration.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if that sounds negative or not, but
A little bit, but it's fine. All right. Oh man, stop voting for it right when I'm trying to copy and paste it. or maybe I could freeze while reading, which is what I'm supposed to do. That's why that button exists.
The exact feature's purpose. Yeah.
I know. I was not being a good user. Tom Merritt and Scott Johnson, not Patrick Beja.
Patrick Beja.
What if he took his name to heart and just had like an entire wardrobe that was beige?
It's not the same spelling, though.
I know. Doesn't matter.
BioCow's yelling RTFM at me in the chat room. That's fair. Totally fair. Well, I think we're IO'd out. Are you guys reading political news?
No.
Whenever anyone goes silent anymore, that's what I assume.
I'm doing paste bin stuff, so sorry.
No, I'll fess up. I was reading that.
See, I knew one of you must have been.
Somebody sent a fundraising text that freaked me out, and I got a little wrapped up in that for a second. Anyway.
Yeah, I get fundraising emails.
Put down your phones and enjoy the virtual phone call with me that's going on.
Yes.
I can't really criticize, can I?
Can you imagine telling someone back in the late 1800s there's going to be a telegraph that works where you can speak with audio and pictures at the same time?
You mean like that Edison fellow?
Remember that guy?
I was thinking about this. Like, you could start to explain to kids today, like, the internet used to be printed out and delivered to you or a store or a library, and you'd have to go pick up web pages in person.
Yep. It'd be like trying to describe the internet in its earliest days to old people. It's just the opposite.
When you wanted to Skype someone, you had to go to the wall and use a specific device.
Yeah. You used to have to say, it's a folder on your desktop, like this folder on your desktop.
All text messages were written down and given to a person to hand deliver.
So I have a friend, and it's a mutual friend of Tom's, and one of her children watched one of the old Van Halen videos where he's around the swimming pool and he's being lavished by like attractive women like that are servants. One of them brings him like a phone, like on a little silver platter.
Right.
And she was saying like her daughter's like, what is that? Like why is this person, what is that object that they're bringing toward Van Halen in this?
Okay.
Cell phones used to have to be plugged into the wall, or at best could only be used near your house. Cordless telephone.
See, that's the thing though. It doesn't really look like a cell phone in the way we like. If the only phone you ever saw was like either a smartphone or maybe a flip phone.
Cordless phone might register as a cell phone, maybe.
Yeah, maybe. Because it would kind of sort of look like it, but not to be that guy. But that was Diamond Dave's solo version of "I Wish They Could All Be California Girls."
Aha!
Van Halen.
See, sorry. I'm not.
It was not, in fact, Van Halen, Roger.
Wait a minute. Did you watch Almost Famous?
No, I've never seen Almost Famous.
You need to watch that movie because if you're going to be a stickler about stuff like that, you need to watch that movie.
I've seen every Cameron Crowe movie ever made except for Almost Famous, and I don't know why. So it's on me. I got to do it. Maybe Almost Famous
Cameras used to be separate from phones. That's a good one, Ken.
Wait, why?
Cameras didn't even have screens.
You had to
You
wait.
couldn't tell what you were actually taking a picture of.
Well, you could. You just didn't know what the actual resulting.
You had a little window.
My daughter, she just won a contest for actual film photography contest. She took third in this big Instagram contest. Anyway, use a film camera to do it. There's no screen. There's no preview. And I said to her, I go, your generation has this amazing world you're in. Everything's got a screen. It's all previewable. Filters happen on the fly. Photoshop happens on the back end. You can do so much. I said, why would you do this? And she says, because it's the coolest thing. So to her, the norm is boring. It's this ancient way of doing it that's really compelling her. And she wants to, at some point, get a dark room so she can do some old school film stuff.
Like when we use quill pens.
Yeah.
Yeah, we actually had to pull them off the bird first. Come here.
No, I'm saying when we use quill pens, we're doing it just because it's cool, not because we have
Yeah,
to.
but then you would have to have your own little bird ranch or something.
No, you could just buy them.
You could pull no. If you're gonna go that far,
do
you're
it
gonna go all
right.
the way and raise the freaking birds.
Yeah.
Don't
Raise your own birds.
There's nothing more small batch.
That's like telling Scott's daughter, like, did you use a tintype? Then you're doing it wrong.
Tintype was one of the many available technologies that photographers could use back then.
I mean, Carter, who's my other daughter, she's got her phone and she's got an SLR that we gave her a few years ago, and she's uses a Wacom, and she has everything she needs for this sort of thing. And she says to me the other day, Dad, should I buy new Polaroid film or expired Polaroid film? Because it's about $10 cheaper to buy the expired stuff, but it might be yellow on the way out and stuff. And I said, why are we even talking about this? We worked so hard to get past that little blip in history and move on to a much better thing. And
I remember when people hated Polaroids, other than the fact they were instant. Like the picture quality was okay, and they got yellow fast compared to like your standard, like photomat, produced or developed pictures. And like it seems so weird that people have such a nostalgic pining for like really crappy pictures.
Yeah, I don't I'm not sure I'm wishing I had ink pens and brushes here anymore. I'm really glad I'm drawing digitally. I've saved paper. It's not a mess. It's I don't have to start over. It's the best.
I used to have like an old Nikon, film SLR. And it was all right, but I really, really took to digital SLR because suddenly you could actually take photos without worrying about running out of film, but two, not having to go through that entire process of developing everything. Because it's such a pain in the ass.
Yeah, it's like having it's the equivalent of getting like a 4 terabyte drive in a time where you're never going to hit that cap. You will one day, but it's that feeling of unlimited.
Like it's like let me try this. If it doesn't work out, whatever, I'll delete it.
Yeah, but and if you see 10 photos in a row while you're at the shoot, you just delete them there if you hate them.
I mean, sure, there's a certain sensibility about conserving the number of shots you have for something you really need to take a photo of. But it's with film, but like well, I don't have high speed film. I got to swap to my other. This is back when photojournalists used to walk around with 2 to 3 different cameras at a time because they would have different focal length lenses, but they would also have different speed film in it depending on. Okay, I'm going to be shooting in the dark, Reddit area. I'm going to shoot here, or no, it's going to be out in the bright sunlight. I can use this. It's like all these things.
Everything you're describing sounds like a giant pain in the
It is.
But my daughter here, if she heard what you just said, she'd get all stoked about trying that out.
And you know what? It's because it's not a I wouldn't say life and death issue, but if you're making a living on it, you'll do it. But you kind of like, man, there has to be a better way to do this.
Yeah.
Well, because I mean, we've all done retro things that from before we were born, right? Like tried out something like, oh, that's an interesting old way to do it. And I can't think of a good example right now, but I've definitely had my grandparents tell me like, why are you doing it that way? It's so much easier now. Why would you bother?
Right.
I remember going to a museum and they had an old toaster from colonial America, back in the colonial period of the U.S. And it was just basically an iron contraption that would hold your piece of bread, and you would stick it in the fireplace. It would have a little rod so you could turn the piece of bread around to the other side when one side was done toasting. It's like, really? That's such a pain in the ass if you just wanted toast and butter in the morning. I'm trying to imagine you stick a bagel in it, but it was just like it looked like a file folder holder. It was just two metal things that stuck up, and you put the slice of bread in it. You just toast it.
I'm very sorry and proud to announce that Damn Fine Podcast passed Film Sack in the iTunes rankings.
Damn it! I mean, woo!
I think it might have sunk back down underneath it, but Ron sent me a screenshot. He sent it just to say like, hey, look, we actually showed up in the top whatever. And the first thing I noticed was the one right below us in the rankings was Film Sack. So I'm like, woo, we beat Film Sack.
Is that the film category?
TV and film, yeah.
Yeah. I haven't looked in here in so long. I don't even know where we're at.
You're probably back in front of us now. It was probably a momentary blip.
Curious. I haven't been in here in so long.
Oh my.
Wow, they'll.
Well, listen, friends.
Steve to email me, so I don't know what they're doing right now.
It's a good time to be alive. Seriously. I know you probably don't think so, but it really is. So hang in there. We'll see you tomorrow with Justin Robert Young. Have a great day.